In February 2016, no opinion poll in France cared to test the name Emmanuel Macron. Macron was a political nobody. He had no electoral experience. 1 year later, he won the election and became the President of France. That was in 2017. In 2020, Macron entered untested waters again. A centrist leader trying to fight radical Islam without becoming Islamophobic. There aren't many such. What the French president is trying to do is long overdue, making a clear distinction between Islamophobia and fighting extremism, steering clear of appeasement politics to do what needs to be done. It's a new political template, and the world is watching closely. Emmanuel Macron faces another election next year, and he is perhaps betting his re-election on this template of politics. Last year, France witnessed 2 terrorist attacks. A teacher was beheaded in Paris, and 3 people were stabbed to death. Macron declared a war against radical Islam. There was a crackdown on suspected radicals. Hundreds were arrested. A mosque was closed. Now the president is writing the final chapter of this war. Despite the outrage from the Islamic world and relentless and personal attacks from leaders like Recep Tayyip Erdogan of Turkey and Imran Khan of Pakistan, President Macron of France is pushing for a law that is designed to tackle radical Islam. Later today, this bill will be put up for a vote in the lower house of the French parliament. The lawmakers are expected to pass it. The bill will then go to the French Senate or the upper house. It may choose to make some amendments, but lawmakers are expected to green-light the new law there as well, in the upper house too. There are 7 things that you must know about this law. Number 1, it has specific measures to tackle hate speech and separatism online against government workers. Under this new law, anyone who spreads hate against public sector employees in France with an intent to harm them faces up to 3 years in jail and a fine of $55,000. A guilty verdict on the charge of separatism could lead to 7 years in jail and a fine of $91,000. If any foreigner commits these crimes, they could be banned from France. Here's provision number 2. New rules for mosques in France. Mosques that get foreign funding. In fact, this law covers all associations that get public funding. They must sign a Republican contract of engagement. It's a charter of sorts that broadly rejects the idea of political Islam and rejects any foreign interference, especially on matters of religion. New rule number 3 is on homeschooling. Homeschooling will now need to be authorized by the state. So far it was self-declared, but now you need permission if the law is passed. This measure will guard against radical religious education in mosques and madrasas. Rule number 4. Punishment for doctors who provide virginity certificates. They could be fined $18,000 and put behind bars for 1 year for issuing such certificates. Rule number 5, stricter controls over foreign funding of religious organizations. Those who get more than $12,000 from abroad must declare it in their annual accounts that the French government can access. Rule number 6, special provisions for policing places of worship to stop hate preachers. This includes increasing penalties and even closing down some places of worship. And finally, provision number 7, an extended ban on religious symbols. For civil servants, public sector employees and private contractors of public services, they're all prohibited from wearing religious symbols like the hijab, even the cross. They cannot voice their political views in public. How is France responding to these proposals? Like with all reform, this too is being met with some protests. Before the bill was put to vote in Parliament, activists took to the streets. They claim that the new law is discriminatory and targets all Muslims in France. This country has 5.7 million Muslims, the largest Muslim community in Europe. Protesters say the new law turns all of them into potential suspects. Among the detractors are 100 imams, 50 teachers in Islamic sciences, and 50 presidents of associations in France. Reports say they signed an open letter on the 10th of this month, calling the Republican Charter, quote-unquote, unacceptable. But the Macron government denies all these charges. Here is how they defended the new law in Parliament.
It is a nice text which protects freedoms. It is a nice text for secularism. It is not naive nor hysterical. It is only compliant with the principles of the Republic, so everybody can live freely, express their religion, be able to pray or not to pray if they want. Today, ladies and gentlemen of the Parliament, you make the law, and the government will be open to any proposal in the next 15 days. Faithful with its notion that the Republic must stay the way it is, faithful to the Constitution of General Charles de Gaulle, faithful to the 1905 law, faithful to the history of France. Thank you.
The new law has not been made in a silo. For 2 weeks, French MPs participated in heated debates about the bill. The debates lasted a total of 135 hours. The lawmakers went through 51 articles of the new law. Some 1,700 amendments were proposed. 313 of them have been accepted. This only goes on to show how serious France is about tackling radical Islam. WION is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news on the move.